again, we are live from the LinkedIn Hub at Advertising Week, and I am sitting with Nick Blunden, who is the Global Managing Director at The Economist. So, Nick, I know that you got to do a really cool panel.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, one of many here at Advertising Week about millennials. Ooh, we talked about them so much. But it seems like this one was really cool and different, and you had some really heavy-hitting CMO marketers sitting with you, and some interesting conclusions that you guys came up with. So let's talk about what you were setting out to achieve and some of the main things that came out of that.
Well, the starting point for this panel was that we'd done some research with Bloom Worldwide, trying to really get under the skin of a lot of the cliches about the millennial generation.
Which there are many. Yeah.
There are many, and that they're lazy and narcissistic and entitled, and our research suggests that whilst every generation has people who have those attributes, millennials are no more likely to be that than any other generation. But that was the starting point, and what we wanted to do was get together a panel of practitioners, not necessarily agency people, not necessarily ad tech people, not even publishing people, but CMOs who are day to day having to think about the decisions they're making and where they're spending their money with relation to these different generations. And we came at it from a slightly more, not skeptical point of view, but questioning point of view that said, are the millennial generation really as different as some would have you believe? And our sort of premise was to try and understand whether the rise of the millennial generation will cause an evolution or a revolution in marketing. So that was the question I put to Joy Howard, the CMO of Sonos, John Potter, the CMO of Moet Hennessy, as he told me was the way to say it, Alan Shanzer of SVP at Pandora, and Carolyn Baird, who's at IBM. And the conclusion of the panel, and we'll come back to, because I asked each of them at the end, is it evolution or is it revolution? And 3-1, they went with evolution, which I thought was interesting.
So what are some of the findings? I know that you guys at The Economist, in your research, have found that, a lot of millennials read The Economist.
Yeah.
Which is news to me.
Yeah.
And so as I was thinking, I guess there's some thinking millennials, or some smart millennials.
Well, and that was the one of the interesting insights from the research that said basically millennials are the most sophisticated media generation the world has ever seen. They consume more media across more platforms in both analog and in digital than any other generation. So whilst we're absolutely right to categorize millennials as being on BuzzFeed, on Facebook, using social, Vice and Vox, all those brands that have built their business around millennials, but we shouldn't fall into the trap of saying that's the only things that millennials do, because actually they are very sophisticated and they want multiple sources of media. So they read The Economist as well as being avid users of BuzzFeed, as well as being on Vice. It's a real mixed generation.
I think you also mentioned to me something about them being very brand conscious, which is a really big deal if you think about what we're doing here. It's all about branding, and a lot of them are very in tune with branding without having an agency.
Yeah.
So...
Well, and Joy Howard at Sonos made this point that they've grown up very natively on instinctively understanding branding and marketing, which makes them have very high expectations about advertising and branding. But they also take their own personal brands very seriously.
Yes.
And so they're almost, in this constant process of managing their own brand campaigns through social media.
Right.
And that makes them very sophisticated.
You don't even have to be a big businessman. Every one of them who's on social media is managing their brand through what they put out and how they put it out, and all those different things. Yeah,
and that I think it means that actually it's a very positive thing, because it means that if the end consumer or customer understands the marketing and branding process, we have to get better at doing it because their expectations are so much higher.
So let's talk a little bit about the takeaway for you guys at The Economist. So you've invested in all this research and you've done all this, and you have this cool panel and talk to people who, are obviously, like we were saying, heavy hitters in the business. And what are some of the takeaways for you guys as a publisher?
Yeah, and the research was designed twofold. One, to enable us to have a sensible conversation with our advertisers, but also very much to enable us to think internally about how do we evolve our business to address or engage this audience. And we found that actually it wasn't about repositioning The Economist as a whole. The founding principles, the foundations of our business, we think, and research suggests, resonate with millennials in the same way for 173 years it's resonated with other generations.
So, no need to reinvent the brand.
Well, no need to reinvent the DNA,
right.
But certainly the way that we deliver what we do, there are opportunities to do that in new ways. So as a result of the research, we've launched a new product, a daily mobile-first product called Espresso, which gives people who are interested a shorter, sharper dose of analysis every single day rather than necessarily consuming The Economist in its weekly form. We've also just launched Economist Films, which is our film business, which gives us the opportunity to tell Economist stories through a visual medium. So, 15-minute films. Storytelling, but, in a kind of documentary style. But our brand naturally fits very well there. And we're able to distribute that through the channels that millennials use in addition to The Economist. So we can distribute those through Facebook and YouTube and so on. So it's really been instructive for us to say, how can we grow the business by launching new products which take the core of what we do and deliver it in new ways?
Well, that's really cool, Nick, and I'd love to see all that. I'm excited to see new directions that The Economist is going in. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.